I didn't think much of the gift at first. It came from someone I trusted, someone close. But a few weeks after bringing it home, everything started to fall apart: my health, my job, and I felt like something was watching me at night. Hello, little ravens. You're about to hear true horror stories about cursed gifts, objects given by friends or family that brought sickness, loss, and something far worse into people's lives. These aren't stories about haunted antiques or old relics. They're about ordinary presents and the damage they caused once they crossed the threshold. If you enjoy realistic, slow-burn horror stories that stay with you long after the video ends, subscribe now and leave a like. And as you listen, ask yourself one question. Have you ever received a gift that didn't feel right from the very beginning? I got the gift a week after I moved into my new apartment. It was a small place, nothing special. 1 bedroom, old building, thin walls. But it was mine, and after a rough couple of years, it felt like an accomplishment. I didn't throw a housewarming party or anything like that. I barely told anyone my new address. So when the package showed up at my door, I was surprised. There was no return address. Just my name, written carefully in black ink. The box itself was light, wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with string like something handmade. I assumed it was from a relative who'd heard I moved. Inside was a decorative wall mirror. Not antique-looking, not cracked, just old-fashioned. Oval-shaped, framed in dark wood, slightly warped glass. The kind of thing you'd expect to see in a hallway of a house that hadn't been renovated since the 70s. At the bottom of the box was a small note. Thought this would look perfect in your new place. I knew exactly who it was from. Mark had been one of my closest friends for years. We worked together before I got laid off from my last job. He'd always been supportive, at least outwardly. He congratulated me when I found the new apartment. Said he was proud of me for starting over. I didn't question it. I hung the mirror in the hallway across from my bedroom door. It fit perfectly there, like it had been measured for that exact spot. The first few days were normal, and I started sleeping through my alarms. That had never been a problem for me. I'm a light sleeper. Always have been. But suddenly, I was waking up late, groggy, like I hadn't slept at all. I blamed the stress of moving. A week later, my phone died overnight. Not the battery draining, completely dead. Wouldn't turn on. I had to replace it. Then my laptop started acting strange, freezing, files corrupting themselves. I lost a project I'd been working on for months. It was frustrating, but still within the realm of bad luck. What bothered me more was the mirror. Every time I passed it, I felt delayed, like my reflection lagged behind me by half a second. I told myself it was just the warped glass. Old mirrors do that. Still, I stopped looking at it directly. About 3 weeks after the mirror arrived, I lost my job. It was sudden, budget cuts, they said, nothing personal. I sat there nodding, pretending I understood, while my stomach dropped. Rent, bills, everything I just stabilized was gone again. That night, I stood in the hallway staring at the mirror. I don't know why. I just felt pulled to it. The apartment was quiet. No TV, no music. Just that low, empty silence you get late at night in winter. I looked at my reflection, half expecting it to move on its own. It didn't, but I noticed something else. There was a dark shape behind me in the reflection, just over my shoulder. I spun around. Nothing was there. When I turned back, the mirror showed only me again. I laughed it off, nervous laugh, the kind you use to convince yourself you're still in control. After that, my health started to decline. It began with headaches, dull at first and constant. I felt tired all the time. I stopped eating properly. My doctor ran tests. but everything came back within normal range. At night, I'd wake up with the feeling that someone was standing in the hallway. Not moving, just standing there. I never saw anything, but I could feel it. That pressure in the air, like being watched without eyes. One night, I woke up to the sound of glass creaking. I sat up in bed and listened. It was coming from the hallway, slow, subtle, like someone running their fingers across glass. I didn't get up. I stayed frozen in bed, staring at the doorway, waiting for something to step into view. Nothing did. The next morning, I took the mirror down. I didn't hesitate. I wrapped it in a blanket, took it outside, and left it next to the trash can behind the building. I didn't feel relief as I walked away, just urgency. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The next afternoon, when I got home, the mirror was back, hanging in the hallway, perfectly centered. I panicked. For a few moments, I imagined Mark had entered the apartment while I was out, but that would be almost impossible since I hadn't seen him in over 4 months. I called Mark immediately. He didn't answer. I sent a message. Nothing. I checked his social media. The accounts had disappeared. No profile picture, no posts, as if he had vanished. I took the mirror and brought it to a nearby church and explained to the priest what was happening. He took the mirror and we went to a room in the church. There, he began to bless the mirror. And at that moment, the mirror simply shattered on its own. It was at that moment that I realized it wasn't a gift, but a curse of envy. Whatever had entered my apartment with that gift no longer had access to my home. We often think gifts are good, especially when they come from people we know, but we need to be very careful as they can contain much more than good intentions. Thank you for listening to my story. The unsettling part isn't the mirror itself. It's the fact that it came from someone she trusted and knew exactly where to place it. Sometimes the curse isn't about the object at all. It's about intention and how easily we invite it into our lives without realizing it. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done after finding the mirror in the same place where you took it from? The ring had been in my family longer than I had been alive. At least, that's what my aunt told me when she handed it over during Christmas dinner. She said it had belonged to my grandmother, and before that, to someone even older, though she never explained who. It was gold, simple, heavy for its size, with a dark stone set into the center. Not polished, not shiny, almost dull, like it absorbed light instead of reflecting it. I wasn't close to that side of the family. In fact, I barely spoke to my aunt outside of holidays. There had always been tension there. Small comments, passive smiles, that quiet competition that never fully goes away. Still, when she placed the ring in my hand and told me it was meant for me, I felt obligated to accept it. Refusing would have turned dinner awkward. I didn't put it on right away. I slipped it into my coat pocket and forgot about it until later that night after I got home. I remember standing in my kitchen, staring at it under the yellow overhead light. The stone looked almost black, but not quite. There was depth to it, like smoke trapped beneath glass. I told myself I was being dramatic. I put the ring on my finger. It fit perfectly. Too perfectly. The first thing I noticed was how quiet my apartment felt afterward. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet, like sound had been dampened. I could still hear things, the refrigerator, the heater kicking on, but everything felt distant, like I was underwater. Over the next few days, my life started to narrow. Friends stopped replying to messages. Plans fell through without explanation. At work, projects I'd been leading were reassigned. My manager told me it was temporary, but the way he avoided eye contact said otherwise. At night, I started waking up at exactly 3:17 a.m. every night. No alarm, no noise, just my eyes snapping open into darkness. My heart would already be racing, like I'd been running in my sleep. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, listening to my own breathing, convinced that if I moved, something bad would happen. I started feeling sick about 2 weeks in. At first, it was exhaustion, then nausea, then a dull pain in my chest that came and went. I went to urgent care twice. Blood tests, scans, everything came back normal. Probably stress, they said. I stopped wearing the ring to bed after I noticed something strange. One night, when I woke up at 3:17, my hand was raised in front of my face. The ring was inches from my eyes. I hadn't gone to sleep like that. My arm was sore, like it had been held there for a long time. I took the ring off and placed it on my dresser. That's when the dreams started. I dreamt of standing in unfamiliar rooms, watching my own life from a distance, watching myself fail interviews, watching myself get sick, watching myself sit alone in my apartment, staring at the walls. And every time, there was someone else there too, always just out of focus, always standing behind me. During the day, things got worse. I was officially, no warning, no severance. I lost my health insurance shortly after. The chest pain became constant. I stopped eating. My reflection started to look wrong, pale, sunken, like I was slowly hollowing out. One evening, as I sat on the edge of my bed, I felt something shift. The ring slid off the dresser. It didn't fall. It moved, slowly, deliberately. I picked it up with shaking hands. It felt warm. Not room temperature, warmer. Like skin. That night, I called my aunt. She answered on the first ring. I asked her where the ring really came from. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Then she laughed softly. She told me it never belonged to my grandmother. She said it was passed on, when necessary, that it helped to rebalance things, that sometimes one person had to lose so that another could finally move on. I asked what she meant. She told me she had been sick for years, financially ruined, miserable, until recently, until the ring left her possession. I hung up without saying goodbye. I couldn't sleep that night. The next morning, I tried to get rid of the ring. In desperation, I wrapped it in a cloth and buried it in a park on the other side of town. That night, I woke up choking. I couldn't breathe. I felt a pressure on my chest, heavy and intentional, as if something were sitting on me in the dark. I heard a breath that wasn't mine, slow and patient, inches from my face. I woke up early, went out with the ring, and did the only thing that occurred to me. I went into a church in a more distant neighborhood and put the ring in the donation box. When I lay down to sleep that night, I felt the air was lighter. I didn't have any nightmares, and my health stabilized after a few days. A few weeks later, I got a new job. Not a better one, just enough. I'm achieving new goals, and that's been a great learning experience. Receiving gifts is always nice, but we need to be careful about whether the intentions are truly good. I haven't spoken to my aunt since, but I was told she had an accident at home a while ago. I swear I don't know if it has anything to do with the ring. I needed to tell someone about this, and I found your channel and wondered why not. What makes this terrifying isn't the ring, it's the ease with which the suffering was transmitted. No ritual, no warning, just a family tradition disguised as a gift, pain redistributed. I once knew a family member who received a shirt as a gift, and sometime later, he suffered a possession, and during the exorcism, the evil spirit said that it was given to ruin my relative's life. How many people do you know who suddenly improved, right after someone else's life began to fall apart? Tell me in the comments. The toy arrived 3 days before Christmas. It was left on our porch sometime in the early morning, wrapped in bright paper with a red bow that felt too tight, like it had been pulled aggressively. There was no name on the tag, just for Lily written in neat, careful letters. Lily was my daughter. She was 6. At first, I assumed it was from my sister-in-law. She had a habit of dropping things off without telling us. She never liked me much, but she adored Lily. Or at least she liked claiming she did. The toy was a small rag doll. Not antique, not visibly damaged. Just unsettling in that quiet way you can't quite explain. Pale face, white dress, no smile. Its eyes weren't missing, but they were wrong. Too dull, like glass that had been sanded down. Lily loved it immediately. She carried it everywhere. Sat it at the table during dinner. Tucked it into bed beside her at night. She named it Emma, and when I asked where she got that name, she just shrugged and said, "That's what she told me." I laughed it off. Kids say things. The changes started subtly. Lily stopped sleeping through the night. She began waking up tired, irritable. She'd sit quietly in her room for hours, whispering. When I asked who she was talking to, she said Emma didn't like being interrupted. A week later, Lily started saying things she shouldn't have known. Private conversations. Arguments my wife and I had late at night. Things we'd never said around her. When I asked how she knew, she looked confused and said, "You were loud." We weren't. By Christmas Eve, the atmosphere in the house felt wrong. Heavy, like the air before a storm. Electronics malfunctioned. A heater shut off on its own. I started waking up at night with the feeling that someone else was in Lily's room, standing just out of sight. I finally picked up the doll to move it. The moment my fingers touched it, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. Not enough to drop it, just enough to hesitate. The doll felt colder than it should have, almost damp. That night, Lily screamed, not a nightmare scream, a full, panicked scream that sent me running down the hallway. When I reached her room, she was sitting upright in bed, staring at the corner near her closet. "She's mad," Lily whispered. I asked who. She turned her head slowly and looked at me. Not with fear, with annoyance. "You shouldn't touch her things." After that, Lily stopped calling the doll Emma. She started calling it we. Her voice changed too. Not dramatically, just flatter, older. She stopped using contractions. She corrected us when we spoke incorrectly. She'd tilt her head and stare when she didn't like an answer. I called my sister-in-law the next morning. She denied sending the doll, but there was something in her tone, relief, maybe, or satisfaction. She told me Lily had always been sensitive, that some children see more. Then she added something strange. She said, "If it's attached now, you shouldn't try to take it away." That night, Lily stood in the hallway outside our bedroom. I woke up because I felt eyes on me. She was just standing there, perfectly still, holding the doll. The hallway light was off, but I could see her clearly in the darkness. Her eyes looked unfocused, dull. "Daddy," she said softly. "She says you're the problem." I sat up, heart pounding, trying to keep my voice calm. I told her to go back to bed. She smiled. It wasn't Lily's smile. Over the next few days, my wife got sick. Fever, weakness, could barely stand. Doctors couldn't find anything wrong. Meanwhile, Lily seemed stronger, more alert, more present, like something was filling her. On the fourth night after Christmas, I tried to destroy the doll. I waited until Lily was asleep. I took the doll into the garage and raised a hammer over it. Before I could bring it down, Lily screamed from inside the house. Not a cry, a command. I dropped the hammer and ran back inside. Lily was standing on her bed, eyes wide, mouth open, screaming in a voice that didn't belong to a child. When it stopped, she collapsed. We left the house that night. We didn't pack. We didn't go back for anything. We stayed with friends, in a hotel. Then we moved. The doll didn't follow. Lily slowly returned to herself. She doesn't remember Emma, or the doll, or the things she said. But sometimes, when she's half asleep, she whispers things that don't make sense. About being cold, about waiting. And every year, just before Christmas, a small box shows up on our porch, wrapped with no name. We never open it, but it always waits there until morning. What is truly disturbing here, ISN to the doll, is how easily something else was invited into a child. Some gifts don't need permission. They just need to be welcomed. Even once. And the question I sent to whether it left, it asks whether it is still waiting for another invitation. Wow, what a powerful story. What do you think was inside the doll? Leave your comments below and subscribe to the channel. All three of these stories had one thing in common. The danger didn't arrive through a door left open. It arrived wrapped, offered, and accepted without question. A gift from someone familiar, someone trusted, something ordinary enough to sit quietly in your home until it starts taking things from you instead. If these stories made you think twice about what you allow into your life, let me know in the comments. And if you're drawn to slow-burn, realistic horror like this, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next. On the final screen right now are two more stories that continue this theme. Nights that started normally and ended with something no one could explain. Choose carefully. Thanks for watching. Bye, little ravens.